Welcome back to my channel, everyone. 3 tips here. This is part 2 of the jeweler's high-grade sweeps from the jeweler's bench. We're going to get right to that, but before we do, I wanted to explain what happened in part 1. I had the microphone off of my boom and down in my shirt pocket. It was in my shirt pocket for most of the footage. That's why the sound was very muffled. All right, I'll repeat that. I had the mic down in my shirt pocket for most of the footage in part 1. I'm going to take some precautions, make sure that doesn't happen again. Number 2, eBay. There are people corresponding on eBay with me asking questions about refining. eBay does not allow general information exchange on their site, so I cannot answer questions through the eBay messaging system. If you want to talk to me, look in the About on my channel. I've got my email there. I'll try to answer questions, simple questions. I can't give instruction over email. There's too many variables to account for to try to instruct someone via email on how to refine their material, but I will correspond and answer simple questions. And lastly, I've got a new device here. My friend, the fabricator, Matt, he built this for me. So we're going to do a furnace build now that I've got my crucible tongs. Okay, let's go. Let's go with part 1, or part 2 rather, of the jeweler's high-grade sweeps.
Before I get started, I'm going to juice the mic a little bit. I'm going to go from about the 12:30 position to about the 2 o'clock position. That should be a gain of about 12.5%.
I'm going to begin by drawing the solution off of this material in this beaker. I know what's in here. It's going to be some silver, and judging by the color, the green color that I'm getting there, it's probably going to be some palladium in there, possibly. Okay, we're getting down to the bottom. Take a look at our gold in here. The gold looks like it stayed together pretty well. So I thought it was going to crumble and fall to a powder, but looks like it's held together real well, just like we do if we do a normal inquartation. Well, this is great news. This is going to make the refining much simpler. All we have to do is continue drawing off the silver and base metals with hot dilute nitric treatments with this material. I'm adding some distilled water there. Now we're going to put in some concentrated nitric acid. And we're going to put this up on the heat and let this continue to react. I'm going to pull this material down now. I've got another vacuum rig set up here. So what we'll do is we'll pull this solution now out of this beaker.
With this vacuum rig, I'm able to draw off every bit of the liquid without disturbing the solids on the bottom of the beaker.
Put this beaker up out of the way. Remove our vacuum line. And we'll remove both these solutions for now. We'll take a look at this in a minute. And now what we'll do is get set up with the hot plate stirrer here. Here's a look at the material in this beaker. It should be some powdered gold. I'm going to put it up here on the stir plate. Turn some heat on. I'm going to add some distilled water. About 100 milliliters or so, maybe 150. And now we're going to put more nitric acid in. I want to make sure I've got everything that I can get out of here that's soluble in nitric. And we're going to do another nitric acid boil now. Turn the stir bar on, let it react. Both of the beakers have been on boiling now for about 2 hours. You can see back here there's no more fume production. We'll pull this down and let this cool off. And this one over here still got fumes, but I'm going to pull it down and let it cool off over here. And we're going to take a look and see what we got in these solutions. What I'll do is rinse down the sides of the beaker here. I'm going to set this up out of the way, and then we're going to take a look at what we've got in this other beaker. That heater's off. It's cold. Now what I'll do is pour this liquid out of this beaker into this flask right here. And we're going to look and see what the gold looks like inside here. I'm just going to set this solution off to the side for now. And if you look at our inquarted gold down in here, looks fairly decent, but I don't think the silver is pulling out of there like we want to see. I think I may have underestimated the gold content in that puck, so I'm gonna have to back up and punt here and figure out what we want to do next. The concentration of gold here is too high, and it's protecting the silver and base metals from the nitric acid. I'm going to gather the gold up into a funnel here. I'm going to collect it in this filter paper. We've got some of the metals dissolved out of our gold here. This will possibly have some palladium. There's going to be some base metals in here. There's going to be some silver in here. Might even be some gold. But I'm not going to worry about this right now. I'm going to set this off to the side. And what we're going to do, I need to get this gold refined and back to the jeweler. What I'm going to do now is we're going to put it in this melt dish. I'm going to bring the gold over here to the melt table now. And what we're going to do is, somebody asked about the sweeps from my melt table here. What I do is I sweep the material off of this melt table into this container. And what I do is save it. And then when I do a melt for the silver cell, I'll just drop some of this, a spoon of this material right into the silver cell and melt it up with the impure silver shot that I put into my electrolytic silver cell. The material from this jar right here will contain precious metals, some gold, silver, and other metals. And when it runs through the electrolytic silver cell, those precious metals will get trapped in the anode filter basket, and then I can save the filters and recover that metal later on. Now I'm going to get set up to do the melt. I'm going to remelt this gold in this container, and we're going to do some more testing on it to see what the carat is. First, I'm going to burn the filter off with some denatured alcohol. Now ignite the alcohol and let that filter paper burn away. All right, we're going to melt that gold up into a little button now. Okay, here's our little button. It's looking like it's pretty decent here. Fairly pure. Trying to collect all the little beads of gold down in there out of the dish. This is looking pretty good, man. All right. Let me get some flux on that thing. This is just borax again. I'm just adding some borax to our gold button here. A lot smaller than it was when we started, which means that a lot of the base metals and silver and other metals that were in there have been removed. Get in there and get it before it hardens in the dish. I'm going to douse it in some cold water here. That's starting to look more like gold now. Here's our button we just melted up. Looks like it's a pure gold, not high purity, but pure gold. Scratch a little bit onto this touchstone. We're going to put some 22K test acid on here. That's the highest I got. And let's see what happens here. That holds. So I'm thinking that we probably got some high purity gold here in this button, just like it is. Let's throw it up here on the scale. We've got 31.6 grams. 31.6. I'm going to multiply that by 3. We're going to add 94 grams of silver to this, re-inquart it, and re-refine it. I calculated I need 94.8. I've weighed out 84.8, and that's what we'll use here. I'm going to put everything in a melt dish, and I don't want the gold falling apart on me. That's why I'm using a little bit less silver than I calculated. I know that we do not need to add this silver. I could just put this right in the Aqua regia and dissolve it just like it is. But believe me, I've worked with jeweler's waste before. There's going to be other stuff in here that's going to try to follow the gold. Doing a second inquartation is the best step right here to get this gold cleaned up. I'm going to alloy the silver and the gold button that we just melted now. And we'll stir this up with a graphite rod and pour it in some water here to make granules. Now I'll stir it with a graphite rod. Now we're going to pour it in the water, form granules. Looks like a little bit of the gold missed the melt dish. It's the first time I've ever done that, ever. So we'll just pick up all these little pieces, add them to the bowl here. Alright, I think we got all the little pieces here now. Let's take this in and get rid of the tap water and put it in a beaker. Let's dump off the tap water. Plug up the hole here so we don't lose no gold down in there. We're going to transfer the gold into this beaker, and we'll rinse it with some distilled water. Just to be clear, what we're doing here, this is jeweler's scrap. It's going to have different metals, different compounds in here that's going to want to follow the gold. I know you could have dissolved that 24K button that we melted up, but I chose to inquart that button because inquartation with silver does such a fantastic job of cleaning the metal. So we're going to inquart this now and take it out and hit it with some more nitric acid. Here we go. We're going to add some distilled water to the inquarted gold, about 200 milliliters or so. Now we're going to add some nitric acid and extract all the silver that we just added back out of the gold. And what this will do for us is this will do a fantastic job of cleaning that gold up for us. Cover this up, put it up here on the heat, let this react. Now we're going to turn our attention to the finely divided stuff in this beaker. What I'm going to do is try to get the liquid now that contains our soluble metals that are soluble in nitric. Try to get them all rinsed off of the particles of gold that we've got left down in the bottom of the beaker here. Make sure this is sealed up good. I'll start pouring this through the filter now. Okay, here's a look at the material down on the bottom of this beaker. We got 1 ounce so far of gold from all the carats stuff. The jeweler gave me 5.3 ounces of material. This is one reason I do not like refining other people's material. If the yield comes out wrong, oh, look at them pretty flecks of gold in there. If the yield comes out wrong, then, you know, what do you say? It's like, this is the equivalent to giving somebody an envelope full of money, don't know how much is in there, and tell them to go in the closet, count it, tell them how much is in the envelope, and take a cut for themselves. That's why I don't like refining other people's material. Right here. Get that stir bar out of the way here. Get the rest of this material. This looks pretty good, man. This is bright, shiny filings of gold. Huh. Wonder how much this is going to yield. It's looking pretty good, man. See all that pretty glittering gold coming down out of there? It's all tiny particles of gold from his jewelry repair operations. Try to get it all down into the funnel here so we can get it rinsed off real good. We've got all the solution pulled through, the filings up here in the funnel, and now what I'm going to do is rinse them with some distilled water and try to get these things cleaned up real good. Make sure we got all the silver off of them before we go to Aqua regia. We're ready to put the filings on some Aqua regia now. I'm going to move this flask out of the way. I'm not concerned with these liquids right now. My main concern is getting the gold out of these filings now for the jeweler so we can get him paid. I'm adding a stir bar back in. If you notice, there was a little bit of gold filings that got left behind in this beaker. That's quite all right because we're going to hit this with Aqua regia now. I'm adding hydrochloric acid. I'm going to add about, we'll bring it up to the 300 milliliter level. Now I've got nitric acid. And I'm just going to pour a little bit in to form Aqua regia in here. And we're going to start dissolving these filings. That's probably about 7,500 milliliters of nitric. We're going to cover it up. I'm going to stick it up here on our stir plate and back. I'm going to add some heat. I'm going to turn the stir bar on, and we're going to let this react now. All right, I'm going to bring up my silver jar here. This silver jar has some undissolved sterling silver in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the, see those spoons down in there? There's some other sterling silver items. We're going to pull this jar down off of the heat here that's got our inquarted gold. And we're going to add this acid now to this silver jar. Alright, I've got some silver nitrate forming there. I'm going to try to rinse some of that out of there. Now we're going to rinse our inquarted gold down in the bottom of the beaker here. Do it carefully because I do see a little bit of powdered gold wanting to come off those chunks down in there. Other than that, it's holding together pretty good. Alright, here's what we got down in the bottom of this beaker. I'm going to add some more distilled water to this now. Enough to cover it up. And then we're going to add some more nitric to it. And continue until we get all of the silver and base metals pulled out of here. Put it back up on the heat. And let that continue to react. Okay, let's do a little review here. Where we're at, we've got the filings up here in this beaker, dissolving in Aqua regia. Got a stir bar on, I've got a heating pad heating it up. And over here we're still pulling out silver from the inquarted gold. Once we get all that pulled out, we'll get that captured in a filter and dissolve this in Aqua regia. We've had these on for about an hour now. You can tell by lack of fume production that this one here, this reaction is complete. We'll pull it down, let it settle. Got a little distilled water here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to rehydrate the reaction back there on the stir plate. I'm going to add about 100 milliliters of hydrochloric acid here. And then we're going to add to that a few milliliters of nitric acid to make some Aqua regia. Not much, probably about 25 milliliters or so. And we're going to add this now to our reaction back here. I'll let this continue. Alright, this solution back here has a tiny bit of suspended material in it, not much. You can see the gold is settled out on the bottom, mostly down there. I'm going to pour the nitric solution here off into the silver jar. And then what we'll do, yeah, the gold's falling apart a little bit in there. Staying together pretty good. I think we're going to be all right with this. All right, here's a look at our gold mud down at the bottom of the beaker. I think we've pretty much got all the silver out of here. Let's just add some more nitric to this. Put it back up on the heat. Let it boil one more time. This will guarantee that we've got all of the silver dissolved out of here. While I'm waiting for these reactions in the back, I'm going to burn some more silver and add it to my silver jar here to consume any excess nitric in that solution in my silver jar. I will just add this right into the silver jar. Again, the reason we're putting more sterling in here is to consume any excess nitric that's in this solution. I've got some more pieces of silver down here that I burnt, or that I peeled off of some sterling flatware and knives. All right, now we'll go ahead and add the burnt silver to my silver jar. If you take a look at this solution back here on the inquarted gold, it's boiling vigorously. No fumes are being produced. That tells me that all of the silver now has been removed from this material. I'm going to pull it down and let it settle out and cool off. This nitric solution now into our silver jar. See how that gold has kind of come apart a little bit. I carefully pour this off. Try not to pour a whole bunch of that gold powder out with it. Alright, I think that'll do just fine for us. A little bit of the gold went over, but that's okay. I'm adding a little bit of hydrochloric acid to the gold now. About 150 milliliters. I'm going to add some sulfuric acid to precipitate out any lead that may be present. You can see we've already got a reaction going on in here. Gold is dissolving from the residual nitric. So what I'm going to do is add about, I'll say 6 milliliters of nitric acid. And we'll put this up on the heat and let this react. I'm going to pull the filings down now off of the stir plate, and we'll let this cool down a little bit. I'm going to add some distilled water to it, cool it off. Look here underneath this beaker, and you'll see that we've got quite a bit of gold in there. So I think what I'll do is add some more hydrochloric to this. Now I'm going to put some more nitric acid in our beaker. About another 9 millimeters. 9 milliliters. I'm starting to get tired here. Alright, most of the gold has gone into solution. We just got a little bit more stuff down on the bottom down there. So what we'll do is I'm going to add just a little bit more nitric acid. And maybe about 3 more milliliters here. And let this react slowly. Don't want to boil it over. I'm going to let this heat for about another 10 or 15 minutes those pieces down there on the bottom of the beaker that are dancing around may not even be gold, might be some bits of platinum group metals. So we're going to let this cook for about another 10 or 15 minutes, pull it down off the heat and let it cool down. We're going to pull this down off of the heat. I think we got everything in solution that's going to go in solution. While we're waiting for that to cool off, what I'm going to do is start filtering the liquid that we extracted from the pieces of filing here. Go ahead and start filtering this now. Carefully. Alright, I don't know if you can see it good on the camera, but now that the filter's loaded up, it looks like the solution's starting to clear up, coming down out of the bottom of that funnel. I'm going to take the funnel off of this flask, put it into a clean flask, and that will hook the vacuum back up to the clean flask. And we're going to go ahead and pour this back a second time through this filter so we can get it cleared up. Here we go. Now you can see that the solution is clearing up. Looks a lot better down in there now. Alright, we've got all the gold in the filter now. The gold bearing solution. It's just a matter of waiting for everything to filter here. Let's do a status test. Make sure we got gold in solution. As you can see by that dark stain, we've definitely got gold in solution. The rest of the solids down into this filter now, and get all the gold rinsed through the filter and down into the flask. We've got the solution pulled through the filter. Now what I'm going to do is transfer the solids into this clean beaker up here. I'm going to cover this up, set it up out of the way. We'll do another extraction on this later on. Now we'll transfer the gold bearing solution into this large beaker and get ready to precipitate out our pure gold. Here we go. Alright, we're going to precipitate out the pure gold with stump out by bonide. This is sodium metabisulfite. Here we go. First spoon going in. Probably won't be able to see the precipitation all that well because the solution is a dark color. Alright, this kind of freaking me out a little bit here. I'm not seeing a whole lot of gold coming out of solution as I add this chemical. All right, I am seeing a little bit of gold built up down on the bottom down there now of the beaker. We're going to go ahead and just let this settle out now. All right, I'm going to set this solution up in the back up here. We're going to bring this other one down and start working on this one. We'll do another extraction on these solids up here that I just took out of the filter. I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid. I'm going to add some nitric acid. And we're going to turn the heat on and start stirring and do some more extraction on this up here. Right, now we're going to filter this next solution and get it ready for precipitation. Here we go. Alright, we're going to get all the residue down into the filter now. Alright, if you look down in here, I've got a little bitty piece of metal. It's probably platinum. Because it didn't dissolve in the Aqua regia. So that's going to be a little bitty piece of platinum. That took an hour and a half to pull everything through that filter. Here's the residue. We'll save the filter paper in our paper storage. But for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to pour the solution back through another filter. Try to get it to clear up a little bit. This took about an hour to pull all this through this filter. If you hear my vacuum pump over there, it's on its last leg. It's getting ready to give out. Thing's been in service for about 10 years. All right, it's late. I'm getting tired. I'm ready for this to be done. I'm like, don't want to see any more jeweler's scrap anytime soon. I'm going to add some stump out. Precipitate out the pure gold now. That should do it. I've already checked it with stannous. There's no gold in solution. So now we're going to try to filter out the pure gold so we can get it into this filter paper and melt it up into a button. Get a yield for the jeweler. Gold from the filings extraction. Doesn't look like a whole lot up in there. Now we'll keep right on going. Pour this waste solution right in to the filter here and capture the gold in this filter. All right, here's all the gold from this extraction. Get it into the filter. Okay, we've got the gold captured in our filter. We're going to transfer it into this melt dish. Brown powdered gold. Okay, here's our gold. Gonna move this over to the melt table now and start the melt. I'm gonna add some borax to this. Coat it with borax real good. I'm not going to burn the filter paper this time. Start to melt. I'm adding the oxyacetylene torch here. Speed things up a little bit. Alright, I think we got it melted up into a nice little bead here, button. I'm going to add some borax as usual. Kind of keeps the surface cleaned up nicely when we put that borax on there. Now we're going to go in and see if we can get our pure gold out of here. There we go. Come on out of there, little buddy. There's our pure gold. Lump of pure gold right there. Just gonna dunk him in the water here. Alright. There it is. 24K pure gold. It's not going to be high purity, but I want to get the gold so that we can calculate a yield and get the jeweler paid. Okay, here's our button of pure gold. Probably a little better than 99% pure. I wasn't worried about getting high purity. Like I said, I just wanted to get a yield for our jeweler. We got 39 grams right here. Took me 18 hours to get this. Alrighty. This will conclude part 2 of the high grade jeweler's bench sweeps. Thanks for watching.